Hello besties and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to follow up on the video I made yesterday on Sienna Mae and Jack. If you haven't already seen that video, please do check it out before watching this, as today I'm just gonna brush past the initial details. So if you want like more a deep dive on what happened and the timeline, then you can watch my old video. So a quick recap for this video from the last video: Sienna Mae and Jack are one of the most influential TikTokers, and they were also part of the Hype House. They created like cute couple like videos but never really confirmed a relationship, and now we know that they never actually had a relationship, but they were close for social media, so it was kind of like for clout. And Jack accused Sienna of allegedly touching him without his consent and being like overall inappropriate with him and disregarding his boundaries altogether. Sienna denied it in two of her own videos, and those were like 7 months ago. And then since then, Jack hasn't responded or anything, but then he released a video of his own just yesterday, furthering down on his allegations. Well, since Jack's video, Sienna has lost a lot of followers. If you actually go onto Social Blade and actually check out her followers when it comes to her TikTok accounts, she has lost over 600,000 followers since Jack's video dropped, which is quite a lot. She still has a lot of followers, but 600,000 in a few like days since 21st is actually pretty crazy. And on top of that, today Sienna has finally responded to Jack's video claims, but not in a video of her own, but she denied the claims via a statement from a representative of hers given to NBC News and in a Medium post published Saturday afternoon. Honestly, it is pretty strange that instead of coming out with her own YouTube video or like maybe like a TikTok or whatever, and actually like speaking to her audience and maybe apologizing, she decided to go on the route of making a blog post, and knowing that not a lot of people are going to read it, it is actually very strange. But before we talk about the blog post, let's talk about her statement that her representative provided to NBC. So, our representative for Sienna said that she denies all the allegations made by Wright, which is Jack Wright, and referred to his video as a reframing of their history in a way that is harmful and untrue. So the representative went on to say that there has been no police investigation, not even a police report to our knowledge, no charges, no private lawsuits, no contact between Sienna and Jack or their respective legal teams in many months. So it turns out that NBC News also reached out to LA Police Department, and they did not immediately respond to a request for comment. And the representative also went on to further say that unfortunately Jack Wright continues his campaign to slander Sienna Mae Gomez with further false accusations. Gomez's representative said his latest falsehood in the highly edited video shows that once again Jack is making a calculated action to hinder, hurt, and harm not only Sienna's reputation and her livelihood, but her as an individual human being as well. The representative further went on to say that Jack's false claims that Sienna at any point broke and entered his home or him are accompanied by false innuendos which attempt to degrade her character even further than his falsehoods already do. Now, for the Medium blog post that I spoke about earlier, it was written by Sienna herself, and I'm going to read it out to you and what she says in it, and I will link it in the description as well in case you want to read it yourself. So, the Medium blog post is titled Sienna Mae Gomez Reflections from an 18-Year-Old Me. So, as I said earlier, I found it very weird that she posted it on her Medium account, which is, if you don't know what Medium is, it is a place where anyone can write anything. It doesn't really matter who you are, and people can get paid on Medium. I have heard other YouTubers say that they can make money off of Medium, and Sienna has like 465 followers on Medium compared to her like millions, 10 million or 20 million followers on TikTok. So it is quite a strange place to post it, knowing that no one's gonna read it. She started it off with like an introduction. So it says, I haven't been 18 a whole week yet, but the decisions I had to make as a new adult are challenging me in a way that makes me wish I could just go back to being a kid. If you're here, you probably know about my situation. I'm going to assume that you already know that for the last almost 8 months, I've been fighting a very public battle that involves topics I don't know much about until recently. trigger warning, and you know what she says, boundaries and consent. For 8 long, grueling months, I've been fighting to save friendships, to save business relationships, to save my own mental health. Up until this week, I was so proud of the progress I made, like being on my phone less and learning to surf and cook with my friends and to value things that really matter. 4 days after turning 18, my former friend Jack Wright, so the one I told you earlier, and accusations that he made against her, the one has so she continues on, the one I've been tangled with in a toxic web of accusations and internet tea, posted a 17-minute video about me. Yesterday, 5 days past turning 18, I had to say okay to a media statement written by my publicist in response to that video. So that's the statement I read you earlier. Her representative commented to NBC News. And then she continues on to say, shortly after that, my legal team sent his legal team a letter threatening a lawsuit for defaming my character because that is the best next step to clear my name. I'm sure it's all hitting the media now. So then she goes on to say, I've never been so scared in my life. I thought turning 18 would be amazing, and so far it honestly just sucks. I have 3 choices that I can see. So 1, go read the million I hope you off yourself message in my DMs. 2, let my well-meaning parents and team dictate next steps and tie us up for what could be years in a legal battle with people who I once considered my closest friends. Or 3, write down everything from my heart and use my newfound adult status to take accountability and share the whole truth with anyone who will listen. To be honest, it's hard not to choose number 1 and to actually follow it through. I told my parents last night that I just want to I'm so tired of fighting. I'm so tired of seeing the hate and people taking sides. My heart hurts for my friends, my family, and the people I associate with who are getting bullied on this own social media accounts just because they know me. So I'm going to choose number 3 for the sake of the people I love. I'm just going to get real and bare my soul and have faith and trust that I will land where I'm meant to be. So the first part, she wrote the beginning of Jack and Sienna, where she started off with, when I was just 16 years old, one of my TikTok videos went viral on social media. Then another, then another. I asked my hometown friend James Wright, which is Jack Wright's twin brother, to do my first big interview with me in Los Angeles. He was out of town, so he asked his twin brother Jack to go with me. I was friends with Jack but knew James better. Both of them had blown up on TikTok a few months earlier than me. From that day on, my life would never be the same. Jack introduced me to people in LA, to new friends that I had been watching online for months, to a new fast-paced lifestyle that was so different than the one we once lived in our small town. We instantly connected. He was my person. We got each other safely home after parties. We had each other's back. People noticed a spark between us, and our videos together went viral. So suddenly we were America's favorite teenage ship, and it all happened so fast that neither of us really knew what it meant. We were thrown into a crazy exciting relationship because the public demanded it. We couldn't make enough content together. If we went just a few days without the other in our videos, the press could run stories like, did Jack and Sienna break up? And the people would comment things like, if they don't get married, I don't believe in love. Major companies were reaching out with brand deals for us and Jack, even switched agents to make it easier for work opportunities. Somewhere along the way, and in a very confusing state of not knowing what was fake and what was real, I started to fall in love with him. So then the next part was the Hype House and her experience there. So she wrote, in December 2020, after 4 incredible months of TikTok fame, more fun than I've ever had, and what seemed like the perfect life, I got a call from the producers of the Hype House show asking me to be one of the featured influencers headlining the series. They also told me that they didn't plan to have Jack in a lead role. To me, that felt wrong. He was the one who introduced me to all these people, and I wasn't even an official member of the Hype House. Thomas Petro asked me to join, but my parents said no. So I decided to be on the show, but only if Jack was in a lead role too. They agreed. From February through April 2021, we filmed for the show. They filmed us both in our hometown. They filmed scenes with our family and friends at my house and at his. They even filmed us in Hawaii. While a lot of it was fun, what wasn't fun is that the producers and other Hype House members kept pressing us to define what we were. Two 17-year-olds being pressured again and again to answer questions like, are you more than friends? And what do you love most about him or her? It was so confusing and emotional as we both started realizing that uncovering the truth behind our relationship, which we agreed not to put a label on, was a major storyline on the show. The more they pressed me on camera, the more emotional I got because I wasn't sure if we were friends or more. We would agree to be just friends, and then he would give me expensive or even matching jewelry or plan elaborate outings. We would talk in a quiet place and say we were just friends, and then the next day be making out with each other for the cameras. I didn't know what was being set up by producers and if it was real or fake. I told him I loved him, and he said he loved me too. I would ask if he wanted to be more than friends, and he would say not yet. Rejection isn't comfortable, but it's honest. The show had to go on, so I kind of just went with it. So the next part is Hawaii in the video. So in May, we took another trip to Hawaii. Though the Hype House filming had wrapped, at this point the internet was going crazy for our content, especially since we hadn't posted a lot during filming because it had to be exclusive to the show. We both felt pressured. I wasn't originally supposed to be on this trip, but to be clear, he said I could come a few days before going. Looking back now, I see that it was to make content. Something on this trip was different. Everywhere we went, he introduced me as his girl, but then takes pictures and blatantly flirts with other people. I was jealous, but more than that, I was confused. Why was I here? Why was he introducing me as his counterpart, telling me to wait patiently to be together if he didn't really want any of it? And then, without producers and cameras around for the first time in months, it really hit me. He liked me when he needed me for a video or for work, but he didn't like me otherwise. I asked him to make a video with me explaining to our fans that we were truly just friends. I told him that if he didn't have real feelings for me, I wanted to set the record straight publicly about our relationship as explained and shown in my response video from last year. He told me we had a brand partnerships writing on our fake one and that it wasn't fair to him. I couldn't believe that someone who I had created with, laughed with, and cried with could so easily disregard my feelings for the sake of money. He apologized and I appreciated that, but I needed time away from him and our public persona to think and heal. So I went home and took time away from him and his family. I received multiple texts from James, Jack's twin, asking why I wasn't responding to them. 2 weeks later, they started posting Instagram stories targeted at me. 1 day later, their friend Mason put out a tweet implying that I physically and mentally abused Jack. A few days after that, their friend released a video taken from November 2020 party showing Jack and me kissing. He narrated the whole thing to make it look like it was something it wasn't. To be clear, James took the video as a joke on his Snapchat 7 months earlier and they decided to resurface it. I would like to think that neither Mason nor James realized the impact that their tweets and the taken out of context video would have. Though they took it all down, it really didn't matter. The damage has been done. My character became a topic of public opinion. I lost friends, I lost brand deals, my reputation was ruined and damaged. I went from being one of the most loved girls on the internet to one of the most hated. I went quiet, I lost my will to live, and I had to be saved. I spent months healing and getting better. My team asked Hype House producers to remove me from the show so I did not have to relive the online bullying in light of the crazy Team Jack and Team Sienna sentiment online, as they knew people would pick apart every interaction between us. Netflix also did not want to be liable for my mental health. That's why I wasn't in the show. That's why producers had to figure out what to fill without months of Jack and Sienna footage. I'm sure the House members are mad at me. I would probably be mad at me too. I'm sorry, especially to the cast and crew who worked so hard on this show. The next part was Jack setting the record straight. So she starts by saying, I've had 3 relationships in my life. My first boyfriend was so sweet to me, and although I was just turning 14 when I started dating him, he was supportive and caring and communicated his feelings like how he preferred my time over public affection. In his YouTube video, Jack brought this relationship up even though it happened 4 years ago. Did I kiss another guy? Yes, I did, a day after we broke up, and I'm still friends with both he and my ex, and they're friends with each other. It happened when we were 14, 15 years old, and we got over it because that's what people do. My next boyfriend is one of the funniest and big-hearted people I know. I hung out with him and his family just a few weeks ago, and the reason we broke up after almost a year together was because he didn't like me being on social media. We decided to just be friends exactly 1 week after my first video went viral. This whole thing with Jack is breaking his heart because he knows the real me, not just some version of me. It's ironic now that his fear of social media and online fame and what that might do to me is the reason we broke up. And then came Jack. I was really grateful to know someone already in the social media world, and we had so much fun together. But as someone I loved and still love, I'm devastated that he made me sound crazy and twisted so many things out of context in this most recent videos, to the point of literally painting me into this loud, crazy, overly stereotype that people try to use on young, especially Latina women. It sucks, and I'm still unpacking that, but all I can own are my words, and I want to clear a few things up. So she goes on to say, I never broke into Jack's house. Did I know the code to his garage door? Yes, because he gave it to me. One of the first scenes we filmed for the Hive House show was me walking into his house and jokingly saying, I'm home, because that's what everyone does at the Wright's house. It's the hangout house. When Jack and James lived there was always friends around, even sometimes until 2 a.m. Secondly, she said that Jack said that he used to see my car at 2 a.m. in front of his house, but failed to mention that most times there would be other friends there too. I never stalked him. I never sat outside his house in the middle of the night. Over the past week, some of our mutual hometown friends have reached out. Like me, they aren't sure how to process some of what Jack is saying and are just as confused as I am. Thirdly, she said all Jack and I ever did was kiss. I have never seen, felt, or touched him naked. He spent several nights at the Hive House together, but I never grabbed him asleep or awake. Yet I'm still being called across the internet by those who don't understand the meaning of the word. Then she goes on to say there is a counterpart for every point Jack made in his video, but I'm not going to do that. Did I do some things wrong and sloppy as a 16, 17-year-old girl who felt love for a guy? Yes, for sure. She then went on to write my regrets. I wish I knew what I know now. I wish we had laid out boundaries that made sense to us both, that protected both of us from feeling vulnerable or misled. I didn't know a lot of other people who at 17 know how to do that with their partners, but I would have liked to have tried. I wish I knew that every time he did something nice for me doesn't necessarily mean that he wanted to be my real life boyfriend, and that not just my internet boyfriend. I wish we knew together how toxic the relationship had become before it spun out of the way it did. Looking back, there's definitely some things I would do differently. Then she went on to say, shortly after the first allegations came out last June, I made 2 videos. Both are still on my YouTube, which I wish I could take back. I'm not proud of how I responded, and I want to apologize to survivors who I offended with my ignorance in responding to these false allegations. They were made hastily and without oversight from anyone but my brother and me. I have since learned a lot about and the psychology trauma response victims of may develop as a result of abuse. I learned what Stockholm Syndrome and trauma bonds are, and I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to learn so that I can be better ally to the victims of. So then she went on to say that stuff that she wished she learned earlier, or some regrets. So understanding love languages. She said that when Jack and I fought, I tried to fix with love and affection. Growing up, I was taught to be communicative and treat each other with love. For me, that means hugs and physical affection, which means yes, I would wrap my arms around Jack to hug him when I was feeling insecure or when he was. I also tried to verbally express my feelings for him because that's what I like in relationships. We would joke about it all the time and even made TikToks about it because to both of us, at least at the time, it was funny. Looking back, I see that I should have met him at his love language versus mine, and I'm sorry for that because I think it meant we blurred boundaries that should have been stronger. My only intention was to love him and tell him that he mattered, and it's a mistake I'll never make again. Then she went on to say the importance of consent. Consent isn't really something that is formally taught in school. My parents have been married for 23 years, and I grew up watching them freely expressing affection to each other. I understand now that not everyone has this comfortability with affection. I understand that when you're in a relationship, there needs to be an open and honest conversation about consent even before acts. Even if you're holding hands, hugging, and being affectionate in a friendly manner. The last thing I would ever want to do is breach someone's boundaries, and for that I have become explicitly aware of the way I interact with others and will do better. Jack, if you're reading this, I apologize if there were times when I made you feel uncomfortable. I'm sorry if anything I ever did triggered other things you have experienced or any feelings of discomfort. But anything I did unknowingly, as our physical relationship on camera was one of the closeness and familiarity that I had known to carry into our real lives. That said, there is a distinct line between that and assault. I'm so sad that this is where we ended up, and even more so that I'm now being used in a new and even more hurtful way. I'm growing. When I'm growing up, I wished every day to become famous, probably like a lot of kids. It sounds so dumb, but I think I kind of willed myself to where I am now. At first, it was amazing. Right now, not so much. She went on to say, I'm having obsessive thoughts about what it would be like to be back at my old high school, choreographing routines for my varsity dance team, and waiting for my college acceptance letter. About not having to wear sunglasses and a hat in a Starbucks drive through line at night because I don't want the person giving me my drink to spit in it because he thinks I'm an about now worrying that I'm saying the wrong things or making the wrong move. If I was a normal girl at a normal school, I would be worried about high school drama rather than trying to wrap my head around how my decisions in response to these serious allegations will have life-changing repercussions on me, my family, and the people I still care about, despite putting whatever hurts we harbor towards each other online for the world to dissect and comment on. Honestly, I just wish I had a little more time to be normal. I want this madness to end. I want people to think before they comment unnecessary, hateful things on my socials, on my friends' socials, and on Jack's socials. I am tired of seeing people that I don't know from my hometown or otherwise jumping on the hate train and making up lies. I'm confused that people say arrest her when there has been no involvement by police, no investigations, no legal action other than mine since this all began. I'm tired of living in a space of sadness because I still don't know how exactly one of my best friends turned into something I will forever be negatively linked with. For many, this is TikTok drama and tea, but for me, this is my life. To my community of supporters, I so appreciate your kind words in the midst of being in a very dark time for me. Thank you for showing me love despite my flaws and mistakes. She then went on to say that I recently saw this quote: to make mistakes and be wrong is human. To admit those mistakes shows you have the ability to learn and are growing wiser. As I entered the second week of my 18th year, I will let that be my guide. She then went on to end it with, after 8 months of feeling muzzled and controlled by lawyers, agents, publicists, and parents, it feels good to speak my truth and share more than I probably should. I'm sure I'll experience some backlash, but as a just turned 18-year-old, it's all mine to bear now. So that was the end of her blog post. So those are the two statements that came out, the one for NBC News and the blog post. And under the blog post, there was 11.3 thousand people who gave it claps. And so that is actually what happened right now. Let me know what you think. I just wanted to read out the responses to you because it's pretty long and a lot of people don't even know that it came out. So just let me know what you think and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much.